everybody, welcome back to SportsKhabri. A lot is happening with the East Bengal Football Club. A lot of you, like me, are maybe clueless about what's happening. So we have three experts on board with us: Nilanjan, Arunava, Sayak. Thank you for joining us today. Arunava, I would like to start with you first. Can you please throw some light on the ownership structure of the club? We understand that Emami right now holds the majority shares, but there is also a part of the East Bengal club. So, can you throw some light on what exactly is the structure like?
So currently, the structure as it pertains is that 76% is owned by the Emami Group and 24% of the club is owned by East Bengal Club. And there's a board which has been constituted. And that seems to be one of the biggest problems, that this board has not been meeting on a regular basis. There's been no coordination going on. And therefore, there is the club on one side which is talking. There is once in a while the investor which is talking, and then there is this entity of East Bengal FC which is sort of represented by a sports management agency which is managing the affairs, sort of talking. So there are actually three separate entities who are talking, but not talking in one language. And I think that is one of the biggest confusions that's been created over there, where again, to some extent also, there's been a blame game: who is at fault for what and why not. We've heard the coach talking about what has been ailing the team in regard to, I didn't have players, I didn't have this, and it's a reoccurring incidents of East Bengal and its existence in the Indian Super League over the last three seasons.
Sayak, it seems like we are stuck in a loop. Same things keep on happening with the club. Can you throw some light on what happened with the exit of Shree Cement and how did Imami come into the club?
So when Israel wanted to enter ISL, right? So they were looking for many sponsors, and there were many parties interested, but most of them wanted to, like, they wanted majority shares not of the football team, but of the entire club itself, right? So Shree Cement came with the support of the chief minister, and they wanted to take over the club. Like, the East Bengal club has many other properties. They have the cricket team, the hockey team, the football team, the intellectual rights and everything. Like, unlike Kingfisher and the other, what's it called? Quest. They only took majority shares of the football team. But Shree Cement wanted to take over the entire club's majority shares. And East Bengal club is a registered society, right? So they can't. So as per the logic of the club, they cannot just sell all of the properties to a corporate house. And what if the corporate loses interest in the near future? Like, the club might be shut down in that way. So so despite Shree Cement and East Bengal club agreeing that they would run the football team, the the full agreement was never signed. The full agreement was that Shree Cement will take over the club itself. So the agreement delayed for like 2 years, and in last season May, after the season ended, the agreement was finally, like, it was never penned. Like, Shree Cement kept investing, but they did not have a written word that they will be allowed to take over the club. So Shree Cement eventually lost interest, that we want to run the club, not the football team, not just the football team, but the club officials were not ready to give give up the foot, give up the club itself. So Shree Cement had to go away because they wanted something else. And with Imami is very close to the chief minister yet again, and this time Imami, unlike Shree Cement, do not have aspirations of taking off the club itself. They were like, okay, the chief minister is involved, so it's like, East Bengal is a big brand, so what's the harm in investing? So unlike Shree Cement, they did agree with what the club wanted, and they took majority shares of the football team itself. So on paper, it's a bit different than what Shree Cement wanted, and Imami getting a majority shares of the football club is very beneficial for the club itself, because the club officials stay in power. They run their own things. They have their own word. They are not forced to bend against any corporate house. So it's a different agreement. Shisemin wanted to take over the club itself, but Imami are happy with the football team itself. So that's what the difference is.
Nilanjan, Imami came on board officially in August 2022. A month later, as we were discussing, they published a statement. They were very excited with being associated with the club. They promised certain things: growth, sustainability, fan involvement, transparency. Uh, it's been 6 months since then. What has gone wrong that fans have started to now question their existence into the club?
Well, it's a calendar event for East Bengal now, very unfortunately. Why are we discussing East Bengal, or why do we speak about Mohun Super Giants nowadays? Because these are sentimental teams. Maybe the same problems exist in other ISL and ID clubs. We do not speak much about that because it's East Bengal, we are speaking about it. Now, Emami came in at with all good intent. The officials were there with all good intent, and both are there with all good intent. But if you look back to the calendar, even where you started from, when the journey started, the club was late in, what do you say, getting into the transfer market. Whose fault was it? Everyone knows. I'm not saying it's anyone's fault. They entered late. And with the team they build up, I'm referring to your question, what went wrong? Did the hardcore East Bengal supporters ever believe they would be finishing into the getting into the playoffs or maybe into the top six? Absolutely not. They have had some results. They have scored each and every day, so much so that someone is there in the top scorers list. Now, obviously, the sentiment of fans will always be there. And with the advent of social media, wherein everyone has an opinion for right or wrong reasons, that's a debate. Everyone feels someone who's coming up with one tackle in an entire match is a better defender than what you have. Now, it's time for the management, both sides, the corporate side and also the sentimental heritage side, to come and sit together and believe what exactly went wrong. Now, it's a kind of a blame game which has started. Stephen Constantine has been made the scapegoat. I'm not Stephen's agent to anyone. Had there been any other coach who was there in the ISL, forget the world, with the same kind of time frame and the players which Stephen had, would the results would have been different? Absolutely no. There can be debates, there can be trolls. So it's the same story over and over again. Now next year around this time of the year, let's hope the club does good. Why not? Definitely. If the club doesn't do good, what next? Are you going into a long term plan? Stephen was there for 2 years. Okay, you could have, not should have, you could have given him a run. Okay, you get into the team, build the team on your own. Both the companies, both the entities, the officials and the corporate structure, get into it along with the coach, make a beginning. You still don't have a coach, the Super Cup's ending. You come up with a kind of a statement that it needs to be a draft now. So everyone is coming up with his own suggestions. And we only fear that the same story again is not repeated. We are not here for anyone is not here for individuals. That's because East Bengal club. Let the club grow as it has grown over the century and gain glory. All of them coming together. But if you look back, it's a calendar event. Unfortunately, we don't want. No one wants it to happen again.
Arunava, Nilanjan rightly pointed out it's a calendar event. We have seen these things happen in the past. They're happening again now. And while Nilanjan was speaking, one thing that came to my mind was that it's not that the solutions are very difficult. It's not, there are certain human elements that are coming in between. What do you think can be realistically done? Because it's not that the solutions are not there, the solutions are there. Ego perhaps is one of the few things that's stopping people from having a conversation, from sitting together, coming up with for the benefit of the club. And which is also surprising that both the parties involved should be wanting better for the club, because eventually in the long run they'll benefit if the club does better, right? There will be more money if the club does better, there will be more fan engagement, etc. So what is stopping them, and why do you think that is not happening?
Let me paint a little wider picture. I think that both East Bengal and Mohun Bagan, despite ETK Mohun Bagan or Mohun Bagan Super Giants, whatever you want to call it, that entity, have won the ISL, is that the Indian Super League is a totally different kind of beast. I think that is something which especially the Kolkata clubs have not realized really. They still live in their own little Maidan world, and they want to have it as it was, and that doesn't exist anymore. I think Indian football has become off the field much more professional. Let's say when Nilanjan, you ran the AFF at the time in 2010, right? 2010, 2011.
2011 post Asian Cup.
Sorry, 2011.
2011.
If you look at that time and how the I League was structured, how it was run, and if you look at how the clubs in the ISL run, it's a huge difference. It's a massive difference, and this is something which these clubs haven't understood. I think that is one thing, that you need professionals to run clubs, you need professionals to run the teams, you need the whole structure, but you need people also to understand the sentimental side of these clubs. Now, the biggest mistake that East Bengal has done over the last 3-4 years is that when Mr. Goenka was in the market, looking for a partner for ATK to go into one of the two clubs. Conversations also happened with East Bengal.
It did. Yeah.
They didn't take it up. That is, to me, one of the biggest mistakes that they've done. Um, because you would have had an opportunity, whatever Mohun Bagan officials are saying, the professionals of Mr. Sanjeev Goenka have built what is now very, very successful on the field, if they like it or not. That is a reality, that is a fact. They can say we've done this, we've done that. Sorry, you have minimal involvement of the success of ATK Mohun Bagan winning the Indian Super League title. And that is what is the difference. At East Bengal, you are not allowing the corporate to run the team. You're telling the corporate what to do. I'm very, very interested to see how Emami handle and manage this, because Emami did not actually build the team originally. It was the club officials who originally built it. So there are a lot of small little things. You're coming up, as I said, that you want a draft now. Players are on contracts for 2, 3, 5 years. Why would the other clubs release players? It is your mistake. It is not the mistake of the other franchisees or other clubs. You have to set your house in order, and you cannot do this as you've done in the past. Every summer you plan a new team and then let's see what happens. Those days are gone. You have to have a 2-year, 3-year, 5-year, 10-year plan for the club. Again, I'm very happy, very proud of what my former team Mumbai City has built. Now people will say they've got a lot of money, they've got this, they've got that. No. Of course they have City Football Group in the background. But they've brought in someone like Sujay Sharma who understands the Indian football market better than anybody else. They have ensured that the international and the local knowledge is the strongest in the market. The same thing is working for Atletico de Kolkata or ATK or ATK Mohun Bagan or now Mohun Bagan Super Giants. They have built that expertise over these last 9 seasons. So that is what East Bengal. East Bengal is a every summer it's like a soap opera, so to say. Now in March, the soap opera is what will happen next season, right? And that cannot be. You have to have. I mean, East Bengal officials with ex players putting in a dream list of players that they want to sign, and most of the players are on contract. Why would a Lalinwala Changte, why would a Bipin Singh leave Mumbai City to join East Bengal club? You are not, again, and that is a sad part also for East Bengal, you are not the biggest player in this market. You are one in a huge pond. You're one part of fish to take a Bengal example. And this is a hard learning. I remember I was in Kolkata when East Bengal was winning 2-0 at halftime and lost 4-2 against Odisha.
I was in
And I
that game
remember
as
I was
well.
talking to fans. I said, guys, actually we're winning 2-0, but Odisha was the better team. Right? And they were dreaming of the top 6, a lot of people around me. I said, sorry guys, this is not a team to play top 6. If East Bengal get into the top 6, it rather raises questions about the standard of the Indian Super League. And that's a sad reality. So if all these questions need to be looked at and answered, and then you have to do introspection, and there is no introspection happening at East Bengal for quite a while.
Um, yes, Nilanjan, please.
Just to add, Akshata, just to add what Arunava said, very, very rightly pointed out, he mentions that the Kolkata clubs, especially we are speaking about East Bengal, they have lost their aura which was there. Kolkata once upon a time was called the Mecca of Indian football because everyone flocked to the Mecca, like everyone flocks to the Mecca, the holy pilgrimage site. Everyone flocked to Kolkata to play. The situations changed in the 90s, early 2000, and nowadays, as he very rightly points out, you go and approach a player who's not a Bengali, and how many Bengali players are there still in the Indian football circuit at the topmost level? You ask a Lalianzwala Changte or a Bipin Singh, the two names which he mentioned, I'm not saying they would say no, but most of them, they would have thoughts and rethoughts and rethoughts. They would be rather to moving to some other club because the fear of the administration, incapability in the club, for whatever reasons it may be, the corporate side or the sentimental side, they fear that their career may get jeopardized out there. So it's a thought process also in the minds of the players. Each and everyone opens up to me. They do not want to move out there. Just Aruna, very, very valid point Aruna mentioned. Exceptional valid point. All yours, Akshay.
Sayak, can you tell us more about the fan perspective? How are the fans looking at this situation? I'm sure they are also tired of being in the same loop. Um, there's this very interesting article in the Quint in which there's a line, I'm paraphrasing, that nobody knows what's ailing East Bengal Football Club. So, can you throw some light on this, please?
See, it's all about power. Okay, East Bengal is a society, so obviously there should be elections. Like people, the club members vote, and elections happen. In Mohun Bagan, elections happened very recently, I think, and but in East Bengal, elections haven't happened for a long, long time. I think since 2004, I think. I'm not very sure. So in East Bengal, since it's a society, there has to be an opposition to stand, and elections will happen. But there is no opposition in the club itself. A select few are there since the 90s, and they are and the members who are loyal to them, they're only like managing the club itself. So and for a fan like me to become a member of a club, you need to have connections. You cannot simply become a member of a club simply by applying somewhere. Okay, so it's a very it's a closed but open door. Like memberships happen, but it's very difficult to get in. So so the members of the club do not want change. Like they have the power, they have a soft cushion. They're happy to be sitting there. They don't allow the new fans to get the memberships and vote. So obviously, majority of the regular fans, not the members, they are blaming the club officials itself that there is no space for the new fans to raise their voices. All the fans can do is protest or raise banners. They cannot discuss with the club itself because there is no space of discussion itself. So the majority of the blame goes to the club officials that okay, you are doing things wrong. That's fine. At least hold elections, at least open the memberships, get new folks in, get new fans in. Like there is no communication at all, and one of the and recently yesterday itself, before the board meeting happened, the club hired some random goons, some 30-40 people to go in front of Emami office and protest for what? Like what was the logic there? They wanted to pressurize Emami to agree to some of the demands like the ISL draft. I'm pretty sure the Emami know that that's an absurd demand, but just to propose a happy image in front of the media, they're agreeing to everything. But so the East Bengal officials are just like happy with the power they have. They won't allow the new fans to come in, and when a corporate comes in, they also want the corporate to work on their own terms despite being minority shareholders. I don't think in any corporate body or in public body this happens when a minority shareholder has the has the audacity to command the majority shareholders that do this, do that, do that. So they are corrupted by power. They do not want to lose the power at the club. They will not allow Shree Cement to take over the club. They will not allow Emami to run the football team. And and the problem is, um, West Bengal is a very political society. Okay, so the club officials and the senior officials are very closely associated to the ruling party, the Trinamool Congress. So in Bengal, the the ruling party gives grants to local clubs. Okay, for many festivities. The East Bengal club members are somehow like senior members of those local clubs. So they are basically voter base. So the chief minister, even if she knows that something is going wrong in the club, she won't interfere because the club members are important factors in local elections. They will gather votes for you. So it's a political syndicate. Like Mamta Banerjee helps the club to get investors, but she will not interfere to solve the mess because the mess, if it gets solved, she will lose a major voter base. Okay, major party workers. So it's a mess. So so the club officials won't lose power, and the government won't interfere to remove those members because of the electoral gain. So the majority of the fans blame the club officials itself.
Uh, Arunava, there's one question that was asked on Twitter that can the club be run as a community club, or is privatization the only way forward? There's still a misconception, despite the fact that we all are living in the ISL world, there's a lot of money flowing into the football clubs. we need the money, right? To run a club, we need the money, but there's still some misconception that people think that, we can survive. We have that kind of a legacy name. We have that kind of a goodwill where we can run by ourselves. So can you tell us, or the people, who've asked this question, about this?
I'll take a German example, or I'll take Barcelona as an example, where you have community clubs running, but they have created commercial entities to be able to compete at the top level of local, national level, and international level football. FC Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Dortmund, whatever you want to say, of course, have that community side. But the influence of the members, Bayern Munich has just crossed 300,000 members of the club. The inputs of the members is actually quite limited because there is a stock not listed, but where Adidas, Allianz, and Audi uh, um, have their stakes of 8.33%. So they make up 25% of the company. And for example, I take a practical example. The Bayern fans have been against Qatar Airways being a sleeve sponsor of Bayern for quite a while. There's been quite some unrest at the club. But still, the club management has decided to say, listen, we need the money. We're going to take that money from Qatar Airways. So the influence of fans, even in so-called the examples that East Bengal, Mohun Bagan, and Mohammedan fans like to take, the influence of fans is actually quite limited to non-existent. So this is a first learning that you have. But I come back to the point of professionalization is that professional people, Oliver Kahn at Bayern Munich is not there because he's a club legend as a footballer. Oliver Kahn is there because he's studied sports management. He has set up his own businesses. So of course he's there as a club legend, but he is actually more there because of what he studied and what he's learned about football. So that is something which generally in an Indian context needs to be understood, that if you want to be professionally successful, and cricket is the prime example, is that professionals need to run the game, not only football, any sport. And especially at club level, you need the guys. I understand you need fans, you need passion, you need all of that. But rather have people run it who take decisions which are in the interest of the club from a practical, from a systematic standpoint, rather than taking decisions from an emotional standpoint. Because as much as football is an emotion, we're talking about a professional business. We're talking about entities which are spending 40, 50, 60 crores. In any other business, the way football is run, even let's talk the top clubs. A club like Barcelona, the way it's run, it's a community club. That would have been shut down 30, 40 years ago, right? So that is something where we need to get at that. With We always talk about the potential. People talk to me about Indian football has a potential, and Nilanjan, we've had a lot of conversation. Indian football has huge potential. East Bengal has a potential. Mohun Bagan has a potential. Mohammedan Sporting has a potential. Kerala Blasters has evolved as a potential over the last 9 years of the Indian Super League. That's nice to talk about. But we need to get to that level of understanding. Again, that's what I'm saying. Professionalism, management is the key element. And those who are running teams cannot care. It sounds bad, but that's a fact around the world. They should not care of what are the fan opinions, because they have to take decisions sometimes which are in the interest of the club. But where 99% of the fans say, listen, it is not a right decision. And that is the tough one. That can you absolve yourself from that? Media, fans, and then take a decision which is in the interest of the club. East Bengal and Mohun Bagan have an advantage on one side, which is legacy, which is a fan base. On the other side, it's a burden. A Hyderabad, a Mumbai City, a Goa don't have that burden of a legacy. You now see Kerala Blasters as a good example. It's becoming a burden for them. So therefore, if you don't take those decisions at the right time in the right way, you will not be able to do something. And again, as I said, East Bengal needs to learn that how they have run for 100 plus years, you cannot run the next 100 years. It will not work. East Bengal, if they continue to work the way they're working today, once relegation is going to be introduced into the ISL, East Bengal will fight to save their position in the top tier of Indian football. And that would be a disgrace.
My next question is both for Arunava and Nilanjan. As Sayak pointed out correctly, that there's nowhere else where a minority stakeholder dominates the majority stakeholder the way it's happening in this case, right? And of course, there is a saturation point that even Emami will reach. Maybe they have already begun to reach there, or they will want to make a call sometime soon, if not before the season, maybe after the season. There's a limit to which people can take this, right? What can realistically happen if Emami decides to leave? And since you have observed this kind of situations in the past with this club, and you've witnessed history in some ways, so can you throw some light on what can be expected, and what lies ahead of us?
Arunava,
Mhm.
or should I go?
Uh,
Please,
you,
please.
you start and then I'll
No, no,
add.
we start. You're the master.
I no, sorry. So I'll take a couple of examples. East Bengal has been spoiled by Kingfisher because they had the UB group involved. You had a gentleman called Amit Sen on the board who was also an East Bengal fan. And Amit Dao used to sort of have this more fan angle to him than being actually a UB board member. So only when Quest came in, the same thing has happened with Shree Cement, and the same is happening with Emami, is that you have corporate partners who are looking at it in a different way. I mean, Vijay Mallya spending 2 crores, 5 crores, 10 crores. We're talking about someone who had Kingfisher Airlines, the Kingfisher calendar. I don't know what all he's had. It was just something else he was spending on. The same thing happened at Mohun Bagan. So both these clubs have been spoiled by Vijay Mallya and his people, because the despite them being majority stakeholder or 50-50 stakeholders, but again they were putting in the money. They were not trying to call the shots. But we're still talking, and at that time also East Bengal and Mohun Bagan were actually quite successful in the early 2000s. They were quite successful, but the momentum of professional club football in India has shifted over the last decade and a half, I would say. Decade and a half, the rise of Dempo, the success also of Salgaonkars and Churchill. Goa was about 10, 12 years back, was the center of success of Indian club football. And when Mr. Mallya slowly took his nosedive and left the country and had to sell his stakes in the UB group, and it also ended in a very, very sad way. Both the clubs were still hoping, that the new owners would understand, give us 10 crores. Doesn't hurt you, right? And then the new owner said, no, we're not going to give you anything. We're out. Bye. Thank you very much. What value do you add? And in that moment, I would have thought, okay, guys, understand that whoever is coming in, and we're talking about 10 crores, now we're talking about 40, 50, 60, 70. We don't even know how many crores Emami has actually spent. I mean, I've heard ridiculous amounts that they supposedly had to spend to sort even other things out in the background. But you're not giving the corporate what it wants and what it needs. Now, people tell me, oh, you know what? Quest was unknown and East Bengal has made them famous. Oh, great. But has Quest done any business because of East Bengal? Has Shree Cement sold more cement than they were selling before because of East Bengal? Emami is a big group. Are they selling again? And this is something again on an Indian context, also for fans saying, you know what, we and all. Are you generating income for the clubs? I
Very
was
well
yesterday,
said.
for example, Adidas launched the female jerseys, national team jerseys for the World Cup. Here in Germany, the jerseys are being sold for 90 euros a jersey. So we're talking about 8,000 rupees a women's national team jersey. And they're going to sell in hundreds of thousands. It doesn't matter if it's Germany, Argentina, Spain, or whatever. So we're talking about people having to spend money. And also, again, I think Shree Cement, what I heard afterwards, they thought they're going to spend 40, 50 crores, but they will be able to recover most of it. And then that money would be utilized in the next season. No. You have to put in another 40, 50 crores. So people have come in under a wrong pretext, impression, or whatever you want to call it. So the reality of these things is that if the East Bengal club officials would do it differently and take that, you need to ensure the sponsor is happy. Again, anywhere in the world, you ensure your sponsor is happy. I need his money. I need to give him visibility. I need to give him business potentially. Here you're actually abusing him and blaming him
They
for
also
no fault of theirs. That is the real reason why Quest and Shree Cement actually opted out in the end. And I think that is something, if the East Bengal club officials understood, it would grow the club. They could keep their influence. Don't take that influence. If that is the key for them, keep that influence. But ensure that the club grows. And that is where we've been struggling, not only on East Bengal, but on an Indian football context, of how are we going to grow this sport to a level which it deserves. India should be playing a World Cup. India should be amongst the best in the world. We have all what it needs. But East Bengal in small depicts the issues and the problems we have in a larger scale, where again, egos, petty politics, people are fighting each other rather than working together to ensure Indian football is successful.
Nilanjan.
Nilanjan, please.
Well,
Sorry.
Shayok mentioned about uh, certain individuals who have been there for long. It's the privilege which you have got. Now, how are you retaining that privilege which you have got or inherited or over the years have had with you? Now, the positive part of all of this is that East Bengal have been, the officials have been getting in the sponsors. There's interest among each and every one. Quest came in, they went. They were in the I League, but they came in, they went away. Shree Cement came in, they gone. Emami are there. In between, there were talks or rumors, if I may say, or talks with Vasundhara Group coming in from Bangladesh. Obviously, not every talk can materialize, but there was interest. Now, if Emami also are facing the same problem, the other set of potential sponsors, the target audience, are having a close look, as Arunava mentions. How long? कितने दिन तक कि A, B, C, D, okay, Akshata comes in, she leaves, Nilanjan comes in, he leaves, Arunava comes in, he leaves. We understand the potential, something's not changing, the same calendar event as we say in Bengali Jatra Pala. Shayok will have doubts. I'll rather not go there. Let me go to Northeast at least. I will maybe having to spend lesser amount of money and I don't have these such problems. I'm just giving an example. So the club, I won't say the club, some individuals are endangering the interest of the corporate world of the money being pumped into the club. And it's not just East Bengal overall. If you still mention who are the biggest names of Indian football, Mohun Bagan, East Bengal, Mohun Bagan, not Mohun Bagan Super Giants nowadays. All other clubs, with all due respect, they are still number 3, number 4, number 5. Now, this happens in club football with one of the biggest names out there. They would rather be moving out. He rightly points out, Arunava, look at cricket. They would rather be moving out to cricket. Why? They'd be moving out to kabaddi. Less trouble for them.
yeah,
And it's the
Kabaddi.
same thing repeated again. The same time of the year, someone regulating. Shayok mentions there were some individuals who went out to protest. Can you guarantee next year it won't happen? The clubs, fans need to be patient enough. Have they ever been patient? Absolutely not. You look at the structure of the clubs. In any ISL, it's obviously the foreign footballers who hold the spine of the club, but there are also fair amount of valuable contributions coming in from the Indian players, lesser known Indian players in most of the successful ISL clubs. Over this 100 plus years, or over this last decade or so, that East Bengal have been running into the same story each and every time again. Has the East Bengal Academy provided at least one player at the senior level? No. Are there any chances of other players coming up there? Absolutely no. Do you have a batch or a backup from your side, people who can be coming in? Now, the sponsors are not responsible for this. Maybe we are I'm digressing to a different topic altogether. So the entire club structure over the years has not grown. It's only the potential of the fans, the name of East Bengal, which unites so many fans from Bhutan to Brazil, maybe. That's what everyone is harping about and trying to cash in upon. What next? Maybe the same story. There's what ails East Bengal Club? Nothing ails East Bengal Club. Everyone knows what ails East Bengal Club. And each one of those individuals are responsible, be it the fans, be it the media, be it people who are at the club, be at the corporate level. Come on, you cannot have talks amongst yourself, people who matter. Like Arunava gave the examples of some European clubs, just to sorting it out. At least the better part of this year, I would say, from a bird's eye view, it started early. The season is still on, it hasn't ended. So unfortunately, if a coach goes away, but the both the parties come together with the support of the fans, at the backing of the fans, and fans be patient. Maybe next year we get a different story altogether. That's all well wishers can hope for. It's only hoping and nothing else. Fingers crossed.
Yes, Sayak.
Yeah, we look at Odisha FC, right? Odisha FC moved from Delhi to Bhubaneswar because Delhi FA was very, like, they were creating problems and stadiums were very expensive, like the Jawaharlal Nehru Stadium. They came to Odisha. The Odisha government has been trying to get many sports projects recently. They're sponsoring Hockey India, they're sponsoring Rugby India now, and they're also sponsoring Odisha FC. So there was a discussion on social media itself, like, what if Imami goes? So one guy said, and I think it's very valid point. If Imami goes, I think West Bengal government will come in as sponsors and sponsor the team. West Bengal tourism or something, and I think that's a very valid thing which East Bengal club officials will be looking at. And since and that might happen, and also I think if Quest, Shree Cement and Emami, like Shree Cement and Emami have been investing 70-80 crores per year, and Quest have, I think Quest invested around 20 crores in the I League season. If if this money was invested in some smaller club, some I League second division or a city league club in Delhi, Bangalore, Kolkata, I think that would have been more beneficial. I think that would have allowed those clubs to come towards I League structure, and it would have made better sporting sense. Like those huge amounts of money can do wonders in the grassroots and city league structure, and I think that's a better investment from a sporting point of view. So yeah, so ISMO club have to be very careful now. They cannot keep on disappointing the corporates every year.
With as
Just a small
yes, Nilanjan.
point. Just a small point. Shayak mentions a very valid point. Okay, some smaller clubs at the grassroots. Has the club gone ahead and scouted at the grassroots level all over Bengal? It's a huge market. No one does. I respect the idea of former players, greats coming up to give pep talks, but they involved in administration? Unfortunately, not. Are they involved in coaching? Maybe yes, but they're not active coaches anymore. So who scouts those players? People say about the draft system. Have you ever scouted young kids out from the several districts of Bengal or the hinterland of Kolkata, at least to get into the club, have a look, have a proper system? Nothing. He mentions about grassroots, hence I'm saying mentioning this.
I just add 2 points. We're talking about the drafts. I remember when the first draft happened in 2014 in the ISL. I with my boys at Mumbai City, and we didn't have a coach at the time, so I took the lead over who we're going to sign. And for 7 days, literally, we didn't sleep. We were zombies when we were sitting over there. If you look at Nishan Mehra and my face, in those press conferences, we looked like zombies. And the point was, we actually got all the players that we wanted. But if you look at other teams of who were sitting on the drafts and think about who are you picking and how, and that is the sad part of football is, strategically you could have done the best, but it doesn't work out. So therefore, the long-term planning. Think about it. You had Ranjan Chaudhuri in the East Bengal Academy, a man who has produced over 200 internationals at senior and junior level for the Tata Football Academy at Pune FC. And Ranjanda left in disgust from East Bengal, saying, I'm not allowed to really work on bringing up talented players. He said, I want to go scout, as exactly what Nilanjan said. He wanted to go across Bengal. What are the Kolkata clubs? What are they doing mainly? They are now banking on the talent that is coming, especially from the Northeast. Not only them, all over India. Every team will have 2, 3, 4 players from Mizoram or from Manipur. So, you have to work locally to try and do something. And I think East Bengal has another big problem, or Mohun Bagan to some extent as well. ATK Mohun Bagan even more this season has proved it, that there has been a focus mainly on the first team.
First team, exactly, yes.
The rest of the club doesn't count. I will give East Bengal to some extent a credit. You have created a B team. You've created a women's team which has even won the Kanya Shri Cup. So small credit you have to give to them this year. ATK Mohanbagan didn't even do that. I mean, if you look at yesterday's small derby in the Reliance Foundation Development League, ATK Mohanbagan was actually playing with an ISL team. There were players who played the ISL final.
7 players.
And I've heard comments from, especially from the East Zone, that East Bengal, Mohun Bagan, Mohammed Sport, you know what, we had 3 days, 4 days to prepare this, that, everything. United Sports said the same thing. United Sports, a small club with Nawab and Alokda, have been doing brilliant work for the last 2, 3 decades of actually bringing up talent. But the other clubs, Jamshedpur said, yeah, this team has been preparing itself for the whole season. Odisha have said, you know what, we've been also preparing. We're not ready for it, most probably, because it's the first season, but we're preparing for a while. So why does it have to be that the Kolkata clubs seem to be unaware? Oh, suddenly the developmental league is going to happen, or the second division I League is going to turn up. It's this is part and parcel of how you run a club, and that is, I think, very, very crucial, that these learnings need to be there. And another point is also, when we talk about Quest, Shree Cement, Emami. Quest, of course, yes, you were able to get it, but there are two people who are very, very important to get Quest to come to Kolkata and come to East Bengal. But Shree Cement and Emami would have not happened without the intervention of the chief minister. So the reality is, if you yourself would go out into the market tomorrow, yes, you spoke to Basundhara, but I know people at Basundhara, and I've heard from them. Basundhara, the people who play there, who the foreigners or Oscar Bruzon as a coach say, you know what, I have better facilities in with Basundhara Kings than I would most probably have at 99% of the clubs in the ISL, and that is someone who's worked in the I League and the ISL. So why, again, Basundhara, if and they're looking to expand to India from a business standpoint, right? They're like the Tatars of Bangladesh. But they looked at East Bengal and put their hands up and said, thank you very much. It doesn't make sense for us from a business standpoint. So therefore, either work towards keeping Emami, or Sayak, most probably a nice approach and idea of saying, West Bengal tourism on the front of the shirt. But then who knows, maybe then Mamata Banerjee will get involved in the running of the club. So therefore, again, and Odisha is a different story. Odisha, sponsorship, infrastructure, World Cups, sporting events, and hockey at least, they have a sports strategy. And again, it starts with the government, it continues with the clubs, it continues also with the IFA to some extent, that there is no they're trying to run football like they were running football 100 years ago, and does not work. You have to have what is need to be in the 21st century. Again, East Bengal and Mohun Bagan have the biggest supporter base, yes, but if you go into the ISL, you are not ATK Mohun Bagan or ATK Mohun Bagan Super Giants. Yes, you are amongst the biggest fish, but East Bengal in an ISL context is a small team. If I like it or not, if we don't like it or not, that is the reality. So that's the conundrum that you find in that you are one of the biggest footballing entities of the nation, but you're now playing amongst the corporate big boys. This is a different class altogether.
But I don't know, maybe the fear of Didi will make the officials at ACB work harder, or at least do something.
I don't think it will. I think they will try and manage it in a way. They've done it, and again, credit goes to her,
Yeah.
because without her, the last two
Yes.
would have not come forward. One has to be very, very honest, and but that shows you the problem, that um, no corporate looking at football from a serious perspective would go to one of the big clubs in Kolkata. Even Mr. Goenka going and discussing it was under friendly pressure from the chief minister and to some extent from Reliance at the time. So that those are realities, and that has to be accepted. It's not spoken about openly, but those are realities of where things stand and what is happening, and therefore, yeah, it's a very, very difficult thing. But again, I think there are means and ways of ensuring that the officials on one side are happy, but on the other side, the club can work. I think, Sanjeev Goenka's people are showing that how to do it, and I think if East Bengal club likes it or not, I think that model of their biggest arch rivals is something that they need to copy, in meaning, okay, you can do your stuff, you can interact with the, especially with the Bengali media, but let the corporate side of things run the sport. Only then will you be successful.
Nilanjan, Arunava touched upon some,
Hmm.
two critical points that are working in favor of the club. First is that they are developing a B team, which they have been successfully been able to do. The second is that the women's team is doing pretty well. Can you talk about some of the things in your experience the club has done better, so that we leave the viewers or the people who watch this with some sort of hope?
Well, off late the women's team has done well. These initiatives I means not differ, but I would like to mention that should have been taken much prior. You were the leaders. You had to be the leaders in each one of these. You are just now copying or following people, not copying, following what other clubs are doing. That's what needs to be done. Uh, I don't know. Means there's no reason why an East Bengal club cannot be among the top two or the champion of the Hero Indian Super League. Absolutely, there's absolute no reason. But under current circumstances, the biggest example is the mentality in Bengal. Unfortunately, I come from that state and come from the city of Kolkata. It's all past, it's all history, it's all heritage, not just football, from the sociological context. And if you look at the sports,
Yeah,
look at Odisha. Look at Odisha, who has no history of sports but the best infra of the country, supporting teams, bringing World Cups to the country, not just to the state. In Bengal, we are still in 1911. We are still with Tagore, still with Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. Lovely, be proud. I'm proud of them. What am I doing to that? Go to the next level, especially as sports is concerned. Infra-wise, we
And
still are.
Nilanjan, adding one point, Odisha, working of developing sports in in their tribal belts. I think that's one of the most important things, that they're working with Adivasis. Of course, when Dilip Turkey came up as a hockey player and captain and all, that was a huge story, but that is normal for them. So
So
and Bengal's biggest problem is also, Nilanjan, just to add one point to that, is
please,
we
please.
speak about Bengal football, but it's actually Kolkata football.
yeah, it's Kolkata centric. The
Very
East
rightly
have
said.
died.
The other
Yeah,
districts are
yeah,
not involved at all. Not at all, or I would say involved, but individuals who matter have not been able to go there to just catch hold of them and bring them to Kolkata. The Kolkata League is played by players from other states. Lovely. That's how football has grown. What about the Bengali set of players? I'm not saying that only Bengali set of players need to have a reservation, because all those players who used to come from other states and other areas are no more there. Maybe they are there, not being scouted or spotted.
Uh,
also about Bengal football, IFA host the Kanyashi Cup, and the winners were supposed to play in the Indian Women's League, but the cutoff for the league was December, right? AFA gave the cutoff, but the league was held in Jan to Feb. So basically, IFA forgot to keep in track of AIF's calendar. So basically, at the moment, East Bengal, despite being a Kanashi Cup champions, they are not eligible to play in the upcoming IWL. So this sort of complacency is not East Bengal centric; it's Bengal centric in most. Mohun Bagan has been saved thanks to Goenka, but I think it's a very Bengal centric thing, especially in sports, in only Olympic sports. Like we have Saurabh Ghoshal, right? Saurabh Ghoshal plays in Chennai right now. He is from Kolkata and he had to move to Chennai because lack of sponsors. And it is the duty of the sponsor of the government to get sponsors for the athletes. Look at weightlifting. Um, one of the weightlifters who won the gold medal in Commonwealth Games is now thinking to go to some other state to play for that state in the nationals, because the state government cannot simply get sponsors to support their Olympic athletes as well. So it's a solid state. In Bengal, at the moment, sports administration mostly is about cricket, thanks to CAB because they're a private body. But in the other sports, it's pretty much very bad state as for me.
I have heard that Debuda has shifted to join East Bengal. He was earlier with Coca-Cola. He's someone who's known Indian sports like the back of his hand. A very good, able administrator. I believe the role of Debuda out there would kind of rule the roost and kind of shape up what the club would be doing if not for the future, at least for this season. I would say among all the bad points, the best part is the timing of this uproar or dissatisfaction among each and every stakeholders. There's enough time for East Bengal to build up a decent team this year. You cannot go to the draft, expect a draft, but if you tap into the transfer market early at good price, you get some good individual players. And you had some foreigners who may be retained. Look out for the others. Put in a new coach out there because Stephen's history. But again, be patient. You cannot judge a Manolo Marquez as his name is just floating around. I'm going around. Maybe he loses the first two matches out there. Would the East Bengal fans and the officials say, who is a bad coach is not good enough for East Bengal? Who'll say so? The media would be writing about them. So it's again the same story. So Marquez would be Manolo would be judged by the first two matches. The results. It's a result-oriented club, but it's education for fans not to be influenced by some other people who want to regulate them. The media to understand that the cushion needs to be provided to the coach and be patient enough. You're not winning the ISL tomorrow. Step by step target. Then people say we are a heritage club. East Bengal harat jonne team karen. Absolutely no team wants to lose, but you need to be patient. And there's no reason why this club cannot go up to win the
Yes,
ISL.
Sayak.
Also about scouting, I think Emami has to get involved more. I think currently the operations part is being held done by a management group. I think it's called Meraki. And Meraki by nature is more of a PR or marketing like company, and I think Emami has to get involved more and run the football operations as well. First of all, I think they need to get a CEO who knows Indian football in and out. And also about scouting, I think I-League is being ignored a lot, and I think there are many players there who can do pretty well in ISL. So, and this season I-League has been pretty competitive because of the promotion and the promotion thing. So I think East Bengal scouts, if they have scouts, they should, I think, go to I-League and get players in lesser prizes. I think that might bode well as well.
Before I take the last question, if there's anything else that you want to add, all of you, any points that you think we have missed out on? So the last question is from Akash Roy. He asks, "Is there a chance where we can see our glorious club retain its lost charm anytime soon?"
Soon
Very
would be,
much
I think,
possible. Very, very much possible. Very much
yeah.
possible. It's only a good start to the season, nothing else. But one needs to be patient, stay away from the media a bit, don't hype it much. Give the coach and the club and the players and the management that cushion, that time frame. Even if you're not able to, maybe in 2023, 24, at least the 24, 25. That's where my disappointment came in that Stephen did the hard work. You could have given him another year. Okay, you haven't, don't look back, but there's absolutely no reason why it can't be done.
I think stability is the most important factor. Like you cannot keep on changing players every. Like, in the last 14 years, 17 coaches have coached East Bengal. Okay, so that is more than one per year. And I think lack of stability is a big issue. I think clubs like Bengaluru FC have shown that stability can bode well. Like they kept on backing Grayson this season, and he pulled off results. And in the past, when Roka came, Roka's first season was a disaster in I League. They finished fourth, I think. But they kept backing Roka and they won the ISL. I think backing coaches and backing the players is very important. And also the corporate sponsors need to stay like at least give a time frame of 3 to 4 years, and then the judge the sponsors of the coach. I think that stability and long term vision is a big thing right now.
Yeah, just and just to add a point on that, I think the choice of coach is going to be very, very important, and that's going to be crucial. Someone who can handle what comes at you. I think there is not just a sort of pressure from the fans, but there is the angle of media. There is this, I would say, to some extent, unrealistic level of expectations, because again, you're expecting a team to at least get into the playoffs, or maybe get into semis or final or whatever, because of their stature. So I think that is something um, that whoever comes in needs to sort of factor in, and someone who can sort of also play a little with the media. I think the Stephen has also failed this season to some extent, despite having had some success, is of his openness and directness. I think that is something which and of course sometimes his sort of British humor, which very few people seem to understand. and that is something, and of course perceptions, perceptions of, what have you done, as in, he's come from the Indian national team, where he of course did never had the foreigners, had to often play against stronger opposition and try to get the best result, and it is, at the end of the day, whatever we say about style of football and this and that, it's about results at the end of the day. And again, no one, again, with the success that BFC has, are we talking about this, the style that BFC has played, or the style? Does ATK Mohun Bagan have a style of football this season? We can talk about it if we're talking about Mumbai, but the rest of the league, even Goa, we know what the style of play is. So therefore, I think, be patient. What Nilanjan said, I think the fans need to be patient. They need to support their club. I think that there should be differentiations. I think a club like Man United is a good example of differentiating, which is sort of management issues and supporting your team. They turn up 75, 70, whatever thousand fans turn up every time that they play at Old Trafford, and they support their team, and they do their protests outside against the Glazers, whatever. So I think that differentiation, which has not happened, and it could be a topic also with ATK Mohun Bagan as well, with remove ATK, and I think, and again, a lot of people are saying it's a success of the remove ATK movement, but again, that topic had been decided way back, but there are other reasons why that was delayed. That I think fans have to be realistic, and as I always say, Akshata, when we do our Twitter spaces, unconditional support for the national team, or when India plays, I think East Bengal fans need to unconditionally support their team. Because one question I raise, with all due respect, with the Kolkata Giants, is you are unable to fill a 60 plus thousand seater stadium week in, week out. If these two clubs are really as big as everyone says, it should not be a question of filling the Salt Lake Stadium for every game that you play. So that's the key. Support your team. Also, don't create social media pressures. I've heard from players, and again, that the amount of abuse they receive on social media, I think it's a huge problem. I think it's a problem for the league, for the AFF actually to look at. I think Ashik also spoke about it yesterday in an interview in Kerala about the abuse he's received as a Keralite in matches against the Blasters. So I think there are a lot of these small little issues which need to be looked and addressed. And again, it sounds a big word, but I think in some sort of way you need to educate the fans as well. Is what is etiquette? What is, what are boundaries? A lot of these things, and that's something which is very, very tough, and it's going to be challenging. And so I think also in Kolkata, the media needs to play a more positive role rather than a negative role, because whenever something bad happens, they just hit out. And I think that is not very helpful. I know London's already laughing because his experience is more often than I when he was with
Shayok
the
is there.
FF.
Shayok is there. Shayok needs to listen to it.
No, but he's young and he's English language, right? So that's a difference than Bengali media. So therefore, I do that small distinction, but because it's all of these factors are important. Again, it's a huge club with a huge potential. East Bengal and Mohun Bagan should be amongst the biggest clubs in the world, not only India. Forget that, but they are actually nowhere near that, and that is a sad thing, that I feel that the potential that these teams have, the reach, and I can add Mohammedan Sporting to the mix as well into it. They have achieved, despite being 100 plus years, they've actually achieved very, very little on that front. And that should be a question asked to the officials. Why are they not there where they should be? You talk about it. Mamata Banerjee spoke about it the other day when she was standing there. Why can we not take on the world? And
Win the
that's a
World Cup.
question that needs to be asked.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much to all three of you for joining us today and for sharing your valuable insights with us. Very grateful to all of you for your time and looking forward to more such conversations with all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Stay well. God bless.